Do-hyun Park sat alone in his laboratory at 3 in the morning. The only sounds came from the soft hum of computers and the quiet whirring of cooling fans. He rubbed his tired eyes and looked at his coffee cup. It was empty again. The large quantum computer in front of him filled most of the room. Its metal and glass parts gleamed under the dim lights. Do-hyun had worked with this machine for 5 years at the Seoul Advanced Research Institute, but tonight was different. Tonight, something strange was happening. It had started 3 weeks ago. Every night at exactly 3:27 a.m., the quantum computer would start doing calculations on its own. At first, Do-hyun thought it was just a bug in the system. Computers sometimes did odd things late at night when they needed to be restarted. But this was not a normal computer glitch. The patterns it made were too regular, too organized. They looked like words in a language he had never seen before. Do-hyun kept this discovery to himself. His coworkers already thought he worked too much. If he told them about mysterious messages appearing in the quantum computer, they might think he was going crazy. He looked at his watch, 3:26 a.m. 1 more minute. The quantum computer's lights began to flicker, right on schedule. Numbers and symbols flowed across his screen, creating patterns that almost made sense. Do-hyun leaned closer, trying to understand what he was seeing. That's when something new happened. A soft blue light filled the room, different from the usual lights of the computer. Do-hyun turned around slowly, and his mouth fell open. Floating in the middle of his lab was a woman. But she wasn't like any woman he had ever seen. Her skin looked like moonlight on water, silvery and shifting. Her hair moved as if it was underwater, even though there was no wind in the lab. Her eyes shone like opals, changing colors as she looked at him. Do-hyun sat very still. He had seen things like this before when he was too tired, shapes and shadows that disappeared when he looked at them directly. But this was different. The woman stayed there, watching him with those strange, beautiful eyes. "This isn't real," he said out loud in Korean. "I need to sleep more." The woman smiled. Her teeth had the same silvery shine as her skin. Then she spoke in a language that sounded like music. The words flowed together like water in a stream. Do-hyun couldn't understand any of it. He reached for his phone to record what was happening, but as soon as he moved, the woman disappeared. The blue light faded, leaving only the normal lights of the laboratory. Do-hyun stared at the empty space where she had been. He checked the computer logs right away. The strange calculations were there, just like every other night. But there was no record of any unusual light or power usage. According to all the sensors in the lab, nothing unusual had happened. Do-hyun went home as the sun was rising. He tried to sleep, but every time he closed his eyes, he saw the woman's opal-colored eyes looking at him. He told himself it wasn't real. He had been working too hard, staying up too late, drinking too much coffee. These were all good reasons to see things that weren't there. But deep down, he knew this was different. The next night, Do-hyun came back to the lab early. He brought better cameras this time and set them up around the room. He made sure all the sensors were working properly. If anything unusual happened, he would have proof. His coworker Tae-young stopped by around midnight. "You're here late again," Tae-young said, looking worried. "You should go home sometimes, you know. The quantum computer won't run away." Do-hyun smiled and nodded. "I'll go home soon. I just need to check something." Tae-young shook his head and left. Do-hyun understood why his friend was worried. He had been acting strange lately, staying later and later at work. But how could he explain what was really happening? How could he tell anyone that he was waiting for a woman made of starlight to appear in his lab? The hours passed slowly. Do-hyun checked and rechecked his cameras. He made sure the sensors were still working. He drank more coffee even though his hands were already shaking. 3:27 a.m. came again. The quantum computer started its strange calculations right on time. Do-hyun watched the screens carefully, making sure the cameras were recording everything. The blue light began to fill the room again. His heart beat faster as the woman appeared. She looked even more beautiful than he remembered. Her silver skin seemed to glow from within, and her hair moved in waves of light. This time, Do-hyun didn't move. He sat perfectly still, hardly daring to breathe. The woman looked at him and smiled again. She spoke in her musical language, but this time she seemed frustrated when he didn't understand. She reached out toward the quantum computer. As her hand got closer to it, the calculations on the screen changed. New patterns appeared, flowing faster and faster. Do-hyun watched in amazement as the computer began processing data at speeds he had never seen before. The woman pulled her hand back and looked at him again. This time when she spoke, something was different. Her words started to make sense. Adjustment. Language matrix. Can you understand now? Do-hyun's eyes widened. The words were still musical, but now they were in Korean. Not perfect Korean, but understandable. Yes, he said quietly. I can understand you. The woman's smile grew bigger. Good. The quantum translation is working. We have been trying to reach you for many cycles. We? Do-hyun asked. Who are we? My people. The ones who travel through starlight. She gestured at herself. I am Hae-nul. That is, the closest translation of my name into your language. Do-hyun noticed that his cameras were all turned off. The sensors showed nothing unusual. It was as if Hae-nul didn't exist, even though she was floating right in front of him. How are you here? He asked. Are you real? I am as real as you are, Hae-nul said. But I am not here in the way you think. This is a quantum projection. My real body is very far away. Do-hyun tried to understand what she was saying. Like a hologram. Hae-nul shook her head. Her hair rippled with the movement, sending waves of light across the room. More complex. We use quantum entanglement to project consciousness across space. Your quantum computer created a bridge we could use. We have been looking for other civilizations with this capability. Do-hyun had so many questions he wanted to ask, but he could see Hae-nul's form starting to fade. The connection is not stable yet, she said, her voice growing fainter. I will return tomorrow. Please be here. Wait. Do-hyun called out. I have so many things to ask you. But Hae-nul was already gone. The blue light faded away, leaving Do-hyun alone in his lab again. He checked the computer logs immediately. Just like before, there was no record of anything unusual happening. Only the strange calculations remained as proof that something had happened. Do-hyun spent the rest of the night trying to understand what he had seen. He knew about quantum entanglement. It was part of his job. But using it to project consciousness across space, that was something from science fiction. He thought about telling someone what had happened. His boss would want to know that aliens were using their quantum computer. The government would definitely be interested, but something held him back. What if Hae-nul didn't come back if other people were there? What if telling someone put her in danger? Besides, he had no proof. The cameras hadn't recorded anything. The sensors hadn't detected anything. He would sound crazy. As the sun came up, Do-hyun made his decision. He would keep this secret for now. He would wait for Hae-nul to return and learn more about her people and their technology. Once he understood better what was happening, then he could think about telling others. He went home and tried to sleep, but his mind was too full of questions. Who were Hae-nul's people? Why had they been looking for civilizations with quantum computers? What did they want? That evening, Do-hyun came back to the lab early again. He brought more coffee and a notebook. This time, he would write down everything Hae-nul said. He would try to understand exactly how her quantum projection worked. As he waited for 3:27 a.m., Do-hyun realized his life had changed completely. Just a few days ago, he had been a normal scientist doing normal research. Now he was waiting to talk to an alien woman who appeared in his lab at the same time every night. He looked at his watch. 3:26 a.m. One more minute. Do-hyun sat up straighter in his chair and got his notebook ready. He didn't know what Haenul would tell him tonight, but he knew it would be amazing. After all, she wasn't just a dream or a hallucination anymore. She was real, and she was about to appear in his lab again. The blue light filled Do-hyun's laboratory once again. His heart beat faster as Haenul appeared, her silvery form glowing in the darkness. Tonight, something was different about her. She looked more solid, almost as if she was really standing in the room. "The quantum bridge is stronger now," Haenul said, noticing his surprised look. "We have adjusted the connection. I can stay longer tonight." Do-hyun opened his notebook. "I have so many questions," he said. "Your people, who are they? Where do you come from?" Haenul moved closer to his desk. When she walked, her feet didn't quite touch the floor. "My people are called the Celestials," she said. "We live in a galaxy you cannot see from Earth. It would take your light-speed technologies millions of years to reach us." "Then how are you here?" Do-hyun asked, writing quickly in his notebook. "We learned to use quantum entanglement differently than your people do," Haenul explained. "You use it to send information. We learned to send consciousness itself." Before Do-hyun could ask another question, they heard footsteps in the hallway. Someone was coming to the lab. Haenul started to fade away, but Do-hyun called out softly, "Wait, please don't go." The door opened, and Mirai Yang, one of the night security guards, stepped into the lab. Her eyes went wide when she saw Haenul. "Do-hyun, who is?" Mirai stopped talking when she noticed Haenul's silvery skin and floating hair. She reached for her radio with shaking hands. "Please don't call anyone," Do-hyun said quickly. "I can explain." Haenul turned to face Mirai. "Hello," she said gently. "I know this must be frightening for you." Mirai's hand dropped away from her radio. She stared at Haenul with wide eyes. "What? Who are you?" Do-hyun looked at Haenul, wondering if she would disappear. But she stayed, her form glowing steadily in the dim lab. He realized she was letting him decide what to tell Mirai. "She's a visitor," Do-hyun said carefully. "From very far away. She's been talking to me through the quantum computer." Mirai walked slowly into the lab, letting the door close behind her. "A visitor? You mean she's not human?" "No," Haenul said. "I am not human. But I am a person like you. My people want to talk to humans, to share knowledge." Mirai sat down heavily in one of the lab chairs. This is amazing. And terrible. Do-hyun, you know we have rules about unauthorized visitors. And about running experiments at night." "I know," Do-hyun said. "But this is different. This could be the most important discovery in human history. We're not alone in the universe, Mirai. And they want to talk to us." Haenul moved closer to Mirai, her movement making soft waves of light in the air. "We have been watching Earth for a long time, waiting for your technology to advance enough for contact. Do-hyun's quantum computer created the first stable bridge between our worlds." Mirai looked at Do-hyun. "Why haven't you reported this? The Institute should know. The government should know." Do-hyun shook his head. "Think about what would happen. They would shut down the lab, take over the computer. Haenul might never be able to contact us again." "He is right," Haenul said. "We are still learning how to make the connection stable. Too many changes now could break the quantum bridge. We need time." Mirai was quiet for a long time, thinking. Do-hyun watched her nervously. Everything could change depending on what she decided to do. Finally, Mirai looked up at Haenul. "Can you teach us about your technology?" Haenul smiled, her face lighting up like starlight. "That is why we are here. To share knowledge. To help humanity join the larger community of spacefaring civilizations." "Then I won't report this," Mirai said. "Not yet, but you'll need help keeping this secret, Do-hyun. You can't do it alone." Do-hyun felt relief wash over him. "Thank you, Mirai. Having someone else who knows, it helps." Over the next few weeks, Mi-Ray helped Do-hyun keep Hae-Nul's visits secret. She adjusted her security rounds to make sure no one else came to the lab during the late-night meetings. She brought food when Do-hyun worked too late, and she asked Hae-Nul thoughtful questions about her world. Hae-Nul taught them amazing things. She explained how her people had learned to use quantum entanglement to connect minds across space. She showed them mathematical formulas that proved faster than light travel was possible. She told them about other civilizations that humans had never dreamed existed. But keeping such a big secret was hard. Do-hyun started making mistakes at work because he was so tired. Mi-Ray had to make excuses to other security guards about why she spent so much time near the quantum computing lab. Then one night, everything changed. Hae-Nul appeared looking worried. Her usual silver glow was dimmer than normal. "What's wrong?" Do-hyun asked as soon as he saw her face. "We have detected something," Hae-Nul said. "Something coming toward Earth. Something dangerous." Mi-Ray leaned forward in her chair. "What kind of dangerous?" "A gamma-ray burst," Hae-Nul said. "A massive burst of radiation from a dying star. It is aimed directly at your solar system." Do-hyun felt his stomach drop. He knew about gamma-ray bursts. They were one of the most destructive forces in the universe. "How long do we have?" 3 months, Hae-Nul said. "Maybe less. When it hits, it will destroy all life on Earth." Mi-Ray's face went pale. "Can we stop it?" "My people have the technology to protect Earth," Hae-Nul said. "But we need help. We need to make the quantum bridge permanent, strong enough to transfer more than just consciousness." "What do you need us to do?" Do-hyun asked. "We need to modify your quantum computer," Hae-Nul said. "Make it more powerful. But doing this, it will be noticeable. We cannot hide it anymore." Do-hyun looked at Mi-Ray. They both knew what this meant. They would have to tell people about Hae-Nul, about everything. "How do we start?" Mi-Ray asked. "First, we need more help," Hae-Nul said. "Scientists who understand quantum mechanics, engineers who can modify the computer, and someone with authority who can protect you when people start asking questions." Do-hyun thought for a moment. "I know someone. Dr. Yoon. She's the head of quantum research here. She's brilliant, and she's good at dealing with the government. But convincing her. Bring her here tomorrow night," Hae-Nul said. "Let her see me. Let me explain what's coming." "What if she doesn't believe us?" Mi-Ray asked. Hae-Nul's form flickered slightly. "Then Earth will die. We cannot save your world without help." Do-hyun felt the weight of everything pressing down on him. Just a few weeks ago, his biggest worry had been finishing his research papers on time. Now he had to help save the world. "I'll talk to Dr. Yoon tomorrow," he said. "But Hae-Nul, are you sure about this? About telling more people?" Hae-Nul's glow brightened slightly. "Do-hyun, your world is about to change forever, either because it ends or because humanity takes its first real step into the galaxy. There is no more time for secrets." As Hae-Nul faded away that night, Do-hyun and Mi-Ray sat in silence for a long time. Tomorrow, they would have to convince Dr. Yoon that aliens were real, that Earth was in danger, and that the only hope of survival was to trust a woman made of starlight. "Do you think she'll believe us?" Mi-Ray asked finally. Do-hyun looked at the quantum computer, its lights blinking steadily in the darkness. "She has to," he said. "The whole world depends on it." Dr. Yoon sat in her office, looking at Do-hyun with concerned eyes. The morning sunlight came through her window, making the certificates on her wall shine. Do-hyun hadn't slept all night, and he knew he looked terrible. "Let me make sure I understand," Dr. Yoon said slowly. "You want me to come to the lab at 3 in the morning to see something important, but you can't tell me what it is." "Yes," Do-hyun said. He wished he could explain more, but how could he tell his boss that an alien wanted to meet her? "Please, Dr. Yoon, I've never asked you for anything like this before. You know I wouldn't waste your time." Dr. Yoon looked at her computer screen, checking her schedule. You're right. You've always been one of my most reliable researchers. She turned back to him. Is this about the strange power readings from the quantum computer? The ones you said were just testing errors? Do-hyun's heart beat faster. She had noticed the changes in the computer after all. Yes, he said. It's about that. And much more. Is it dangerous? She asked. No, Do-hyun said. Then he remembered the gamma-ray burst. Well, what I want to show you isn't dangerous. But there is danger. That's why we need your help. Dr. Yoon was quiet for a long time. Do-hyun waited nervously. Everything depended on her saying yes. Okay, she finally said. I'll come tonight. But Do-hyun, if this is something that could harm the Institute or our research. It's not, Do-hyun said quickly. It's something that could help everyone, the whole world. That night, Do-hyun paced in the lab while Mi-ray washed from her chair. They had cleaned everything, making sure the lab looked perfect. The quantum computer hummed quietly in the background. What if Dr. Yoon runs away? Mi-ray asked. What if she calls security? She won't, Do-hyun said, but he wasn't sure. Hae-nul said she would explain everything. Dr. Yoon is a scientist. She'll listen to facts. At 3:15 a.m., Dr. Yoon arrived. She looked tired but alert. Okay, Do-hyun, show me what's so important. Please, sit down, Do-hyun said. What you're about to see. It's going to be shocking. But please wait for the explanation before you decide anything. Dr. Yoon sat down, looking confused. Mi-ray stood by the door, making sure no one else would come in. At exactly 3:27 a.m., the blue light began to fill the room. Dr. Yoon stood up quickly, staring as Hae-nul appeared. The alien woman's silver skin glowed brightly, and her hair moved like waves of starlight. Hello, Dr. Yoon, Hae-nul said in her musical voice. Thank you for coming. We have much to discuss. Dr. Yoon's face went pale. She grabbed the edge of the desk to steady herself. What is this? I am Hae-nul, the alien said. I come from a civilization far from Earth. We have been communicating with Do-hyun through your quantum computer. Dr. Yoon turned to Do-hyun. How long has this been happening? A few weeks, Do-hyun said. We wanted to understand more before telling anyone. But now we need help. Earth needs help. Over the next hour, Hae-nul explained everything to Dr. Yoon. She talked about the Celestials, about quantum consciousness transfer, and about the gamma-ray burst heading toward Earth. Dr. Yoon listened carefully, sometimes asking sharp, detailed questions about the science. If what you're saying is true, Dr. Yoon said finally, we need to tell the government immediately. We will, Hae-nul said. But first, we need to prepare. The quantum computer must be modified. When officials come, they will want proof. We must be able to show them something they cannot deny. What kind of modifications? Dr. Yoon asked. Hae-nul began explaining complex quantum mechanics. Dr. Yoon's eyes got wider and wider as she understood what the alien was suggesting. That's beyond anything we've ever done, Dr. Yoon said. You're talking about changing the basic structure of space-time around the computer. Yes, Hae-nul said. It is the only way to make a bridge strong enough to transfer our protective technology to Earth. Dr. Yoon stood up and walked to the quantum computer. She touched it gently, thinking. We'll need a team, she said finally. Good engineers, people we can trust, and we'll need to do this quietly, at least at first. How long will it take? Do-hyun asked. With Hae-nul's instructions, maybe 2 weeks to make the modifications. Then we'll need time to test everything. Dr. Yoon turned back to them. But the bigger challenge will be convincing the government. They'll want to take control as soon as they know. That's why we need you, Mi-ray said. You know how to handle the officials. You can help protect the project. Dr. Yoon nodded slowly. I have some contacts in the science ministry, people who will listen, but we need to be careful about how we present this. Hae-nul's form flickered slightly. We don't have much time. The gamma-ray burst is coming. Once it hits, nothing will survive. Then we'll work fast, Dr. Yoon said. She pulled out her phone and started making notes. I'll call in some engineers tomorrow. We'll say it's a special research project, very secret. We can trust Park Jin-woo and Lee Soo-jae. They're brilliant, and they know how to keep quiet. Over the next few days, the lab became much busier. Jin-woo and Soo-ji joined the team, and after their own shocking meetings with Hae-nul, they threw themselves into the work. The quantum computer was taken apart and rebuilt according to Hae-nul's instructions. Every night at 3:27 a.m., Hae-nul appeared to check their progress and provide more guidance. During the day, the team worked nonstop, making changes that would have seemed impossible just weeks ago. But keeping the secret was getting harder. Other researchers noticed the strange equipment being brought to the lab. Security guards asked questions about the unusual power usage at night. Government officials started calling Dr. Yoon, asking about rumors of a breakthrough in quantum computing. One night, while they were testing the modified computer, alarms started going off. Red lights flashed throughout the building. May-ray ran to the door. "Security is coming," she said. "Someone reported unusual energy readings from our lab." Hae-nul looked at Dr. Yoon. "We cannot hide anymore. The modifications are almost complete. It is time to tell your leaders." Dr. Yoon picked up her phone. "I'll call the science minister now. He trusts me. But once I make this call, everything changes. Are we ready?" Do-hyun looked at their team. Jin-woo and Soo-ji were tired but determined. May-ray stood guard at the door, ready to protect their work. Hae-nul glowed steadily, watching them all with her opal eyes. "We're ready," Do-hyun said. "Earth needs this. We can't wait any longer." Dr. Yoon nodded and dialed the number. As she waited for the minister to answer, security footsteps got closer to the lab. Hae-nul's form grew brighter, filling the room with silver light. The world was about to change forever. Do-hyun hoped they were doing the right thing. He looked at the quantum computer, now modified in ways that seemed impossible just weeks ago. Soon, everyone would know about Hae-nul and the Celestials. Soon, humanity would have to face both a terrible threat and an amazing opportunity. The door opened, and security guards rushed in. They stopped, staring at Hae-nul's glowing form. At the same moment, Dr. Yoon began speaking into her phone. "Minister Kim, yes, I know it's late, but you need to come to the Institute right now. There's something you have to see. Something that will change everything." Minister Kim arrived at the Institute just before sunrise. He walked into the lab surrounded by government security agents, all of them stopping in amazement when they saw Hae-nul. The alien woman floated in the center of the room, her silver light filling the space with a soft glow. "Minister Kim," Dr. Yoon said, stepping forward. "Thank you for coming so quickly. This is Hae-nul. She represents a civilization called the Celestials, and she's here to help us save Earth." The minister looked from Hae-nul to Dr. Yoon, then to the modified quantum computer behind them. "Dr. Yoon, I've known you for 15 years. You've never been one for jokes or tricks. So please explain to me exactly what is happening here." Over the next hour, the team took turns explaining everything. Do-hyun showed the minister the data from their first contact. May-ray described how she had discovered them and decided to help. Jin-woo and Soo-ji explained the modifications they had made to the quantum computer. Finally, Hae-nul spoke directly to the minister. "Your world faces a threat you cannot see yet. A gamma-ray burst that will destroy all life on Earth. We can help you stop it, but we must act quickly." Minister Kim sat down heavily in a chair. "If what you're saying is true, this is the most important moment in human history. First contact with alien life, and a threat to our very existence." He looked at Dr. Yoon. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "We needed to be ready," Dr. Yoon said. "We needed to modify the quantum computer so it could handle the power required for the protective shield. If we told you too soon, before we could prove everything, The minister nodded slowly. There would have been panic. Chaos. He stood up and straightened his jacket. How long do we have? The gamma-ray burst will reach Earth in 6 weeks. Haynul said. We must complete the modifications and test the quantum bridge within 4 weeks to have time to deploy the protective shield. What do you need from me? The minister asked. Protection, Dr. Yoon said. Resources, and time to work without interference. Once word gets out about this, everyone will want to be involved. We need to control how this information spreads. Minister Kim turned to his security team. Set up a perimeter around the institute. No one comes in or out without my direct approval. He looked back at Haynul. Can you prove to others that you're real? That this isn't some kind of trick? Haynul floated to the quantum computer. As she moved her hand over it, the machine began to glow with the same silver light that surrounded her. Streams of data filled all the screens in the lab, showing calculations and formulas far beyond current human science. This is just a small example of what we can share with humanity, Haynul said. But first, we must ensure Earth's survival. The next few weeks passed in a blur of activity. The institute became a restricted zone, with military guards at every entrance. Scientists and engineers from around the country were brought in, each one carefully chosen by Dr. Yoon and Minister Kim. Each new person who saw Haynul had the same look of wonder on their face. Do-hyun worked day and night with the growing team. The quantum computer grew more powerful as they added new components based on Haynul's instructions. Every success brought them closer to saving Earth, but also showed them how far human technology still had to go. Your people will learn quickly, Haynul told Do-hyun one night as they worked. The Celestials took centuries to develop this technology. You are doing it in weeks. We have a good reason to hurry, Do-hyun said, smiling. Nothing makes humans work faster than a deadline that could end the world. 3 weeks into their work, the first images of the gamma-ray burst appeared on Earth's most powerful telescopes. The news caused panic around the world as governments tried to explain what was happening. Minister Kim finally had to tell the truth on international television. The world's reaction was a mixture of fear and amazement. People gathered in streets and parks, looking up at the sky. Some were afraid, but many were filled with hope. Humanity had finally learned they were not alone in the universe, and their first alien contact had come to save them. More scientists arrived from other countries, all wanting to help. Haynul began appearing for longer periods, teaching them about technologies they had never imagined. The quantum computer grew stronger every day, its silver glow now visible from outside the lab. 1 week before the gamma-ray burst was due to arrive, they were ready for the final test. The lab was crowded with scientists, government officials, and military leaders from around the world. All of them watched as Haynul prepared to create the first stable quantum bridge between Earth and her world. Once the bridge is complete, she explained, we can transfer the shield technology directly to your quantum computer. It will create a protective field around your entire planet. Do-hyun stood next to Dr. Yoon, watching the final preparations. Do you think it will work? He whispered. It has to, she said simply. Haynul began the transfer. The quantum computer's glow grew brighter and brighter, until everyone had to shield their eyes. The air itself seemed to vibrate with energy. All the screens in the lab filled with streaming data as the bridge between worlds grew stronger. Suddenly, Haynul's form became completely solid. She was no longer transparent or glowing. She looked as real as any person in the room. The bridge is stable, she said, her voice now clear and strong. Beginning technology transfer. The next few hours were tense as the quantum computer processed more data than all of Earth's computers combined had ever handled. Haynul worked with the team, guiding them through each step of creating the protective shield. Finally, in the early hours of the morning, they were done. The shield was ready. They had 12 hours before the gamma-ray burst would reach Earth. It's time, Haynul said. Are you ready? Minister Kim looked at Dr. Yoon, who nodded. Do it, he said. Newell touched the quantum computer one last time. Energy surged through the machine and out into the world. Around the planet, people watched in amazement as the sky began to shimmer with a subtle silver light. The shield was working. 12 hours later, the gamma-ray burst hit. Without the shield, it would have stripped away Earth's atmosphere and killed every living thing on the planet. Instead, the deadly radiation bounced harmlessly off the protective barrier. Its energy dispersed safely into space. Humanity had survived its first major cosmic threat, thanks to the help of their new alien allies. In the days that followed, Newell and the Celestials shared more of their knowledge with Earth. The quantum bridge became permanent, allowing regular communication between their civilizations. Earth took its first steps into a larger galaxy, filled with wonders they had never imagined. Do-hyun often thought back to that first night in his lab, when he had convinced himself that Newell wasn't real. Now, as he worked with scientists from around the world and beyond, he knew that reality was far more amazing than anything he could have imagined. "Are you ready for today's lesson?" Newell asked, appearing beside him in the lab. She no longer needed to wait for 3:27 am to visit. "We're going to learn about faster-than-light travel." Do-hyun smiled and opened his notebook. Earth's future was bright, and he was helping to build it, all because he had been willing to believe in something impossible. The quantum computer hummed quietly in the background, its silver glow a constant reminder that humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and they never would be again.